Everyone, and welcome to the NAMI Johnson County First Tuesdays educational series. I'm thrilled this evening to introduce to you Evie Curtis. Evie Curtis is the development director at Assured Trust Company. She brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise in the world of estate planning and trusts. She has an extensive background in banking. She has served in a number of different boards, helping those with disabilities and those in need who might need just a helping hand. And we are going to have such a wonderful chat with her this evening as she shares with us all of her many, many years, all of her brilliance and expertise to welcome us into the world and understanding of trusts. Evie, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Oh, you're welcome. So tonight, I thought I would share with you our outline first. We're going to talk a little bit about you and what you should be thinking about for yourselves. We're going to move into a more specialized area of trust and talk a little bit about special needs trusts and the different kinds. Maybe just throw some vocabulary in this picture. And then we're also going to talk about ABLE accounts because it's just something that isn't discussed enough. ABLE accounts are almost 10 years old, and yet so few people have ABLE accounts, and so many people aren't even aware they exist. So we're going to talk about that. So let's start off with you, because a lot of people think I need to take care of those I leave behind, my loved ones. But it's more than just taking care of those you leave behind. It's taking care of you for how your life is today. We spend a lot of time in estate planning talking about what happens if you die. And yet the bulk of estate planning's value is if you become incapacitated. And people don't spend enough time talking about incapacity. So let's define the 5 basic estate planning documents first. So the 5 are, the first one is a living will. Second one is a healthcare power of attorney. Third is a financial power of attorney. Fourth is a revocable living trust. And fifth is a last will and testament. Now let me define those. So a living will is instructions to your doctor and hospital that says, if I am going to die, here are my wishes. I want pain medication. I don't want liquids. I don't want to be fed by a tube. Pull the plug, the virtual pull the plug. And you have to make sure that your doctor is willing to honor those wishes. And the hospital is willing to honor those wishes. So that's your last will and testament. That's instructions to your doctor and to the hospital, to no one else. Then we get to your healthcare power of attorney. And your healthcare power of attorney says, if I cannot make healthcare decisions for myself, here's who I want to make those decisions for me. You are appointing someone to serve as your agent. And that agent needs to understand your values and your wishes, because you're putting a lot on that person, number one. And number two, whoever your agent is, if they give, for instance, the doctor or the hospital permission to run a specific test, they are obligating your financial resources to pay for that specific test to be done. So you will find that if you have a healthcare power of attorney or a living will, when you go to the hospital and you're going to have a procedure done, the hospital is going to say, do you have a healthcare power of attorney, an advance directive, a living will? And you'll be able to say, why, yes, I do. And here it is. Now, it would be nice if you go to the same hospital all the time, if they could actually pull it up and say, oh, yes, it's right here because you gave it to us last time. And trust me on this, they'll you'll never be able to find it. So every time you go to the hospital, make sure you take at least those 2 documents. And those 2 documents are what make what we call that advance directive or healthcare directive. If you've not done those documents, those are the only 2 documents that I ever recommend anyone download off the internet. And you can do that through the Center for Practical Bioethics. The form it's a front back form. The healthcare side has to be notarized because you're obligating your financial resources. But it is acceptable in all 50 states. So that's the only thing I recommend you download off the internet. The third document we're going to talk about is a financial power of attorney. And this is a very, very powerful document. We don't spend enough time talking about financial powers of attorney. For most of us, our biggest asset are our IRAs or 401k plan. Years ago, it was people's savings or it was their home. But now it's our 401ks and our IRAs. And your financial power of attorney is actually what controls those particular assets. So it plays a bigger and bigger role. And a financial power of attorney says, if I can't speak for myself, if I cannot handle paying my bills, handling my financial resources, if I'm unable to handle anything, then this is the person I want to step in as my agent. Now, in Kansas and Missouri, there's no law that says my agent actually has to perform their job. And so you need to make sure whoever you've asked or appointed in that document to serve as your agent, number 1, is willing, and number 2, understands what you're asking, and number 3, knows where the document is. This is not something you can tuck away and hide. I have had clients say to me, oh, I can't let my son have that document. I don't trust him. Well, if you don't trust him and you don't want to give him the document, you've got the wrong agent named. So no obligation to name your family members here. It's an important document, and you need to make sure that you actually have that document in place. So a revocable living trust is probably our most powerful estate planning document. It serves during your lifetime, if you become disabled, and even after you die. So it serves, well, you can rule from the grave, as we say. It actually controls anything that is titled in the trust, and it can only take care of those things in the trust. So let's say you don't have your checking account in the trust. Maybe you have it transfer on death or pay on death to your trust, but you don't have it titled in your trust. Well, that means your trustee does not have access to that checking account. So it's important for you to actually spend the time reading that darn letter the attorney prepares for you. When you sign your trust document and they give you like this 4-page document and it has all these instructions on it, you actually should read that and pay attention to that. So it will tell you exactly what should be in the trust and what you can leave out of the trust. There are 3 parties to a trust. There's a grantor who sets up the trust. There's a trustee who takes care of the assets that are titled in the trust. And then there's the beneficiary, and that's the person who's going to benefit from the trust. In most husband and wives cases, they are all 3 roles. They set up the trust, they're their own trustees, and they are the beneficiaries of the trust. So the beauty of a trust is if you become incapacitated, life continues on. If and when you do pass away, life goes on within this trust. So the trust becomes a Bible to whoever your trustee is. Now, a trust is private. A trust never goes through probate. Let's say you have 2 children and you decide to leave one of your children out of your trust for your personal reasons, and because sometimes we don't like our children. If you decide to leave one of your children out, well, they'll never know what the other child is getting because they don't have a right to the document. They're not included in that trust. So it is it's a good thing to have. So it's our most powerful document we have. And then our fifth document is our last will and testament, and it does guarantee probate. If you have in trust, this document becomes what we call a pour over will. It pours over anything that should have been in your trust into your trust. And then if you actually don't have a trust in place, you don't have to have a trust. It actually says, here's who I want to get my stuff after I leave. And it is instructions to your executor on how to handle your final affairs. So the combination of those 5 documents, and those are just the basic documents. We're going to add a couple of more specific kinds of trusts tonight to our discussion, but those are the 4 basic estate planning documents. The 5 basic estate planning documents. All of us need 4. The one that all of us don't need is a revocable living trust. So if you feel like, gosh, things are not complicated, I want things to be easy, well, then you don't have to have a trust. But the more, if you win, let's see, I saw the Powerball was, I think 126 million, or anyway, some number. It was over 100 million. If you win the Powerball, you probably need a trust. So the more complicated your assets are, the more important those are. There are many, many, many kinds of trusts. All right, so let's move into, well, let's talk about a couple of things more. Where should you keep your documents? Because this is something that comes up quite a bit. People will tend to tuck all of their documents away, not sharing with anyone, what they've done. It's private. You may change your mind down the road and you go, I'm just not going to share my documents with anyone. So they tuck them away in a safe deposit box. When something happens to you, it's usually not Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. That's when the bank is open. Well, actually 9 to 5. That's when the bank is open to let you into a safe deposit box, right? They usually happen at 2 a.m. on Saturday morning. So if you've got everything safely tucked away in a safe deposit box, pandemonium lets loose. It is a total disaster until we can, number one, find a key, number 2, figure out who's got access to what. It's just a mess. So where should you keep your documents? If you have any of your healthcare documents, you can have as many originals as you want. Keep them with your important papers. I tell people to get a hot pink notebook and put it on your shelf and tell your family members, if anything happens to me, go to this notebook. It's got everything listed in here. And I picked hot pink because most of us don't have a hot pink notebook. So it's instantly recognizable. Maybe you want to do red or neon green, but just pick something that stands out. Your financial power of attorney, whoever you've appointed as your agent, whether it's your sister, your husband, your oldest child, your youngest child, they need to have the original document. You will never use that document. Someone else will use that document. Your trust. You probably need your trust every time you redeem a CD and cash in, and get a new CD to make sure you title it right. Or when you buy and sell real estate, you need your trust document, and sometimes you need the original. So keep it in that bright pink notebook, or most attorneys will do lovely grays and blacks and even navy blue. Whoa, ho. And I say, the heck with that, take it out and put it in the pink notebook. And then your last will and testament, you should only have one original last will and testament. And that's probably the one document you can put somewhere under lock and key if you feel like it. You know, because like I said, you only have one. You can keep a copy in your bright pink notebook, but that one original last will and testament does need to be indeed filed at your death. And by the way, when someone dies, there are no emergencies except for dealing with the body. There are no emergencies. You're gone. So, we have time to find things, to figure things out. I think one of the biggest jobs and one of the biggest services that I serve for families is calming them down. So as soon as we've taken care of what we're going to do with, the funeral arrangements and the services and, who needs to be contacted, as soon as we try to calm people down around that, then the rest we can take our time with so that we can do it right and do it one time. And that's the hardest thing. People just panic. It's like, oh my gosh, what about the electric bill? Well, the electric bill will be fine until next month. It was already paid this month. We're okay. So where your documents are, it's important for somebody who needs those documents to be able to find those documents. Let's move into special needs trust. And the reason I want to talk about special needs trust tonight is they are specialized trust for persons with disabilities or people who are receiving public benefits, whether it's through Medicaid or HUD housing or any of the brain waivers, any of the disability waiver programs that are out there. All of those programs don't allow you to actually have any money that's yours, but yet some money that is yours could be coming your way. So how do we legally protect those funds for your use? There are 3 different kinds of special needs trust. The first one is called a first party. Second one is called a third party. And the third one is called the pooled trust.
Judy Bretman.
Whoa, sorry. That's my Judy. I take care of her. Sorry about that. I know. I'm telling you, I didn't silence my phone. Let me silence it. So first party trust are trust. Usually, most often, first party trusts are put in place when somebody's won some money in a lawsuit. And the reason it's called first party is because the person who's going to be receiving money, it's their money. They're the first person to touch that money. And if they were to actually get that money in their hands, then let's say the Medicaid program, Medicaid insurance program, maybe their SSI payments would all be suspended because you can't have any money if you're on those programs. So we set up what's called as a first party trust, and the money is legally put in these trusts for the beneficiary, and it is that beneficiary's money. We're going to come back to first party in a minute. Then we're going to talk about third party trust. And third party trust are grandma, grandpa dies, and they leave a $17,000 IRA. If you get $17,000 in your hands and you happen to be on some of these programs, you're out of the program until you spend it down. Because, in Kansas, we only get $2,000. That's our limit. And in Missouri, at least, it's $57.26. So Missouri allows us to have a little bit more money, but still 17,000 is over it. So it's third-party money because we were not the first people to have the money. It came from another source, but it is for our benefit. So we're the beneficiary of it, but we are not the first party to receive the money. We're the third party. So it came from somewhere else. Parents, it's usually parents, but it can be grandparents, it can be aunts and uncles, it can be anything like that. And then the third kind of special needs trust is called a pool trust. And in our community, we have our care and we have the Midwest Family Trust. And pool trust are 501c organizations, they're nonprofits, and they will actually put any amount of money in this pool. And we're going to talk a little bit more about pool trust in just a minute, because I'm going to back up and say, what's the catch? What's the catch of establishing these kind of trusts? So a first party trust, the catch is when you pass away, Medicaid has a right to pay itself back. Whatever monies have been expended on your benefit by the Medicaid program, Medicaid has a right to take its or to repay itself before those monies can go on to any additional beneficiaries. In a third-party trust, Medicaid does not have a right to recapture those funds. Remember, it was not your money to begin with. It came from somewhere else. So you are allowed to say where you want that money to go, or whoever sets up the third-party trust as the grantor is allowed to say where the money will go. In a pool trust, it also has to pay back Medicaid upon your death. But if there's any money left over, the pool trust will get a share, or it may get all of any of the monies left over. Pool trusts are alive and well in every state in the union, and they have different flavors and different styles of pool trust. Our care is different than the Midwest Family Trust. So in our care's case, for instance, when you pass away, Medicaid is paid back first, and then the money goes to the pool. But there are other pool trusts that allow maybe just 10% of the funds to go to the pool, and then the rest can be designated to other beneficiaries. It just depends on how the pool trust is set up. You cannot move money from a pool trust unless you move it to another pool trust. So once you establish a pool trust, wherever you establish it, you can only go to another pool trust. You can't go to a special needs trust, because a pool trust is its own unique animal. And it is a special needs trust, it's just a very specialized kind. So special needs trust for persons with disabilities, those who are receiving SSI, Medicaid, any of the other waivers, as long as you have a Social Security diagnosis, those pool trusts, first party, the money comes from you. Third party, the money came from someone else. And then pool trust, the money came from someone else, or it came from you. So it could be first party money or third party money. But it is its own unique animal. We talked very briefly about Medicaid limits, and it's just important to understand that within these kinds of special needs trusts, there are some things that these trusts can do and some things they cannot do. At Assured Trust Company, we serve in a number of special needs trusts, and we are asked very often by our beneficiaries to pay for things that we simply cannot pay for. For instance, if we have a first party trust and someone's receiving SSI and they're on Medicaid, and let's say they can't pay their rent that month, and they request from us money to pay their rent. We can't do that. So as a trustee of a first party trust, you are prohibited from spending money on housing expenses, utilities, or food. Food is going to be taken off the table, we think, down the road, but that hadn't happened yet, but we're hoping that's going to happen. But right now, those SSI payments of a little over $900 a month have to cover rent, food, and utilities. And if someone's not receiving HUD housing, or they're in some kind of facility, that's almost impossible to do. Well, the government has helped us out a little bit with some legislation that was passed. Of course, the government didn't invent this legislation. Many groups like NAMI and many, many others said we have to have a way for people who are receiving benefits and who have these income restrictions and these asset restrictions. How can they ever save any money for, I don't know, a computer or car repairs? How can they ever save money for things like that? And so ABLE accounts were invented. And ABLE accounts were put into place in 2014. And in 2014, well, first of all, let me sort of back up because I want to set the premise up for ABLE accounts. Just like those of us who are earning income, we can save money in a 401k plan or an IRA, right? And we can save that for retirement down the road, for whatever is going to happen down the road. ABLE accounts are it's the same kind of legislation, and it allows persons with disabilities to put aside or have $17,000 saved each year. Well, that's what the limit is right now, is $17,000 for 2023. And I didn't see that it was raised for 2024. So at this point, we're going on the 17,000. But it's similar to those 529 college savings plans where you could put money in and it could grow tax-free, and then you could make a distribution, and that distribution would be the income from that distribution would be tax-free too. So it really is an excellent program. It can be the person's money. They can put money that they've earned from working. It can be gifts from grandmas and grandpas and aunts and uncles. It can be gifts from mom and dad for this child, and you can save up to $100,000 before your SSI is even reduced. So it's a good thing. And then those ABLE accounts, you can actually pay rent. You can pay utility expenses. You can pay for those things that maybe your SSI payment doesn't cover. And so those are wonderful programs. There are a couple of caveats to those programs. You have to establish ABLE accounts with an ABLE account provider. You can't just put money in I'm making this up, in a CAP-FED account and call it an ABLE account. It's got to be a real ABLE account. The beneficiary has to be someone who was had an SSI determination of disability before age 26. By 2026, by the way, it's going to be raised to age 46. Why they didn't just take the age off of there, I don't know. But anyway, you have to have been disabled before 26. And then, like I said, you can save up to $17,000 a year and keep accumulating all the way up to $100,000 a year. So it's a good program. You can only have one ABLE account. However, multiple people can contribute to that ABLE account. You don't have to put money in an ABLE account where you live. You can use any ABLE account that you want. If you use ABLE accounts in your state, sometimes you can also receive tax deductions for making gifts to those ABLE accounts for your loved one. Let's see. Social Security, your SSI benefits are not affected by an ABLE account balance. Medicaid is not affected by an ABLE account balance. HUD programs recognize ABLE accounts and allow ABLE account balances, as long as you keep within the limits that the ABLE account program has. And then you can use that ABLE account money, like I said, for education, for housing, for transportation, for Uber expenses or so. I mean, your health and wellness, you can upgrade your computer every couple of years, car repairs, funeral expenses. So, you know, those ABLE accounts are really amazing what someone can use them for. I do tell people, I just want to remind you that on those ABLE accounts, you want to be careful and make sure that your loved one, before you allow your loved one to actually be the person to make the withdrawals from the ABLE account, make sure that they're able to actually handle making those withdrawals themselves and handling that money. We've seen some problems there. You can have both a special needs trust and an ABLE account. Most first party and third party special needs trusts that you'll see today allow funding from the special needs trust to the ABLE account on an annual basis. So we can actually use money from the special needs trust to actually contribute to an ABLE account. Because remember, I told you as a trustee of a special needs trust, we have to say no quite a bit, but maybe what we can do is we still say no from the trust, but we can put the money in the ABLE account for the yes decision to happen. ABLE accounts are not usually subject to Medicaid estate recovery. This is a very big deal. Kansas eliminated estate recovery for ABLE accounts. Missouri is still subject to estate recovery, but remember I told you in a first party trust, if you have a first party special needs trust, when the beneficiary passes away, Medicaid's paid back first. In an ABLE account, when the beneficiary passes away, Kansas does not come after that ABLE account for estate recovery, but Missouri may. So just something to keep in mind. And then tax deductions. There are no federal tax deductions, but there are state tax deductions. Missouri has up to $8,000 for a single filer, and Kansas has up to $3,000 for a single filer. So there are actually some income tax advantages for those of us who help fund those trusts. Sorry about that. Oh, they're wonderful, wonderful resources for ABLE accounts. And after this meeting is over, you'll see a handout that's coming. It's just a resource for you to take a look at the ABLE account information. There's a lot more detail, and it has resources where you can go. I put in there the Kansas links and the Missouri links, and then the ABLE account resource center. The ABLE account resource center is really amazing, and they've done an amazing job with all of their materials. So it's something worth looking at. So let's sort of go back over some of the things we talked about and why we talked about and why we put them in, why I put it in the order I did. So first off, I talked about you and the 5 basic estate planning documents that you need to have in place. One of the things that I didn't mention is personal property. For all of us, whether I'm beneficiary of a special needs trust, or this is my own estate plan, and my estate, let's say my estate is worth $100 million. Personal property is going to cause more problems than the money will ever cause. And I know some of you are sitting there saying, yeah, but my kids don't want anything. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. It's just the silliest little things that cause the biggest problems. So on your personal property, talk to your family members. And maybe they don't want the Wedgwood china or the fancy stuff. Maybe they don't want that. But maybe they want the clock that's on the mantle, or maybe they want mom's wedding ring, or they want the gun that dad inherited from his dad. So do ask them about personal property, because the problem with personal property is you have to write it down. You have to sign and date your list. It doesn't have to be typed. It can be in your own handwriting, and it has to be with your estate plan. So, those are big things. And every single estate planning document I've ever seen has a personal property list in that packet. And I've seen 3 in my almost 50 years, 3 of them filled out. And I've worked with thousands. And this is where all the arguments come from. And people go, oh, I don't have anything. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You have things. Women especially, we have our wedding rings. Somebody wants that wedding ring. And maybe it's not our kids, but maybe it's their spouses. It's someone who's going to cause a problem. So personal property, even though that really doesn't have anything to do with anything we talked about tonight, I'm here to tell you it becomes everything when you pass away. So all the other technical stuff we've talked about is the silly little things that get in the way. Personal property. Fill out those lists, sign and date them. And by the way, if you end up giving it away, if you put something on the list and you give it away, just cross it off and put the date and initial it that you gave it away. It's as simple as that. You don't have to redo the list. And it doesn't have to be typewritten, and you don't have to go to an attorney for this. This is just a simple piece of paper, and there you go. You can do it. Okay. Back to the rest of the stuff. You do need an attorney to do some of this estate planning for you. I know you can download all this stuff off the internet. I know that. However, you're not the one who's going to be using those documents. So just some lessons. Who's going to use those documents, and who's willing to honor them, and who's not? So a financial power of attorney, we talked about, that is one of the most powerful documents out there. There are a lot of financial institutions that won't even honor financial powers of attorney anymore. So let's say you're someone who's receiving, let's say you have a Schwab account. You might have an investment advisor, but your investment advisor uses Schwab as their back office. Schwab doesn't recognize financial powers of attorney. They have their own. So if you have a Schwab account, you need to get Schwab's form and fill out their form. If you're receiving Social Security benefits and you become disabled, Social Security doesn't recognize a financial power of attorney, but Social Security will allow you to name who you want to be your representative payee if something happens to you. Now, Social Security may or may not honor those wishes, but they will at least look at that choice that you made first. So, without knowing some of these little tricks, and your attorney can help you through all of these landmines. So, the attorneys ask you a whole lot of information and you go, well, that's really none of your business. That's an awful lot of personal information. But they have to know that so they can help guide you on, all right, I've prepared this very complicated financial power of attorney. However, I see you're with Fidelity, and Fidelity is going to require you to have this form. So you make sure you have to fill that form out. So there we go. Okay. Back over the documents. So we talked about where to put them. We talked about personal property, and we talked about the 5 basic documents for you. Your advance directive, healthcare directive, which consists of your living will and your healthcare power of attorney. That's the only document that I ever recommend to anyone that you download off the internet, because if you're going to download it off the internet, make sure you fill it out, make sure you get it notarized. It's okay. If you're someone who has something very specific wishes, that form is not going to be for you because that's a very generic form. But if you have specific wishes, then you probably need an attorney to prepare the document. Financial power of attorney, you're naming an agent to step in if you're unable to make your own financial decisions. This is the person who's going to pay the bills, sign your tax return, make the withdrawals from your required minimum distributions from your 401k or your IRAs. Revocable living trust works during your lifetime if you become disabled or incapacitated, and when you pass away, you can rule from the grave. And you can create trusts to benefit your beneficiaries down the road, even though you're gone. So, you know, the Rockefellers, and I mean, you just think about all the, you know, the major money that's happened in America. All of that money was done through trust. Well, you can get as complicated as you want to with a trust. And then a last will and testament. We all need a last will and testament. You do have stuff, believe it or not, you have stuff, and that's where you designate who's going to get it when you pass away. A last will and testament does guarantee probate. Anything that goes through a last will and testament is indeed a matter of public record and does go through probate. Trust or private. So with these documents, you're never going to have to worry about guardianships or conservatorships. Without these documents, guardianships and conservatorships are in your future, and you don't want to go there. So get it done. And then we talked about special needs trust, first party, third party, and pool trust. Those are the kinds of special needs trusts that protect persons with disabilities from losing any kind of benefit program that they may be under. First party trusts and third party trusts require an attorney to help you set them up. They are very specialized, and there is specific vocabulary that must be in those documents or they will be declined by Medicaid. And the bottom line is we're doing this basically so that we can stay on those benefit programs. We don't want our loved ones to have to move out of their group home or to leave the benefit programs or any of the services that they're currently receiving, and they will if any money is put in their hands. Now, I know I'm dealing with a gentleman now. He's in his 50s. He's disabled. He's been on SSI, unable to work. And his mother's left him about $250,000. Now, this is someone who hasn't had, I call it the proverbial pot to pee in all these years. And he thinks if he discontinues Medicaid and SSI, he's in his 50s, that $250,000 will be plenty to support him the rest of his life. And so we try to, do simple math. But if you think about it, if you have nothing, $250,000 sounds like a lot. And so the first thing I did was I said, well, let's see how much we'd have to pay back to Medicaid. And he'd have to pay back to Medicaid, I think at this point, like $78,000. So we thought, okay, $78,000. Well, I still have $180,000. He thinks that's a lot of money, and it's just not. You just think about healthcare costs today. So, these are very, serious conversations that you have to have. But unfortunately, people have a right to make poor decisions. So, sometimes you just have to let them. And then we talked about able accounts, and I hope able accounts will grow and become more flexible than even now. But at least we have this. And it does allow savings of $17,000 a year. You can accumulate up to $100,000 in Kansas without losing any um, SSI payments. And you can accumulate actually a total of $450,000. That's a max you can accumulate in Kansas. You'll lose SSI, part of your SSI, but you can accumulate money in able accounts and have a maximum. Only one able account per person. So you can't tuck away millions in able accounts. And by the way, there are other states that have higher limits. It's just in Kansas, it's 450,000. So I bet by now I might have a question or two, and I'm ready. And if you don't get too specific so that I have to get long-winded, I can hopefully answer a whole bunch of questions. I don't suppose we have any, Katrina, do we?
Well, Evie, actually, at the very beginning of your presentation, you shared with us a website that you recommended would be an ideal website to download some of those very important documents. You listed out those 5 documents. Can you restate the name of that website?
Excellent. And that was for your living will and your healthcare power of attorney, the Center for Practical Bioethics. And it's actually it's bioethics. Oh, shoot. Hold on. I think if you Google Center for Practical Bioethics, you'll get the website.
Okay.
And then you can download that. There you go, practicalbioethics.org. Thank you
Catherine
so much.
is all on it. Doggone it. Thanks, Catherine. Great. Thanks, Evie. That was the only question I saw in the chat.
Okay, good.
Maybe
All right.
others have something they want to ask coming offline. Jennifer has a question. Jennifer, go ahead and share.
I just had a question in regards to, I think for these special needs and able accounts, the person has to have an SSI diagnosis and is currently receiving SSI distribution
Or
and Medicaid.
or SSD. I mean, you can do as long as you have a diagnosis. You don't have to have SSI. You could have SSDI.
Okay, well, it's very hard sometimes with some of our individuals that have just severe mental health issues to get an SSI.
Yeah.
And in regards to I'm using that possibly, as you mentioned, in these able accounts, can you have a joint member or your trustee, if you have a trust, go in and out of the able accounts per se? I don't trust the individual, the able accounts, with the money to make correct changes due to their mental health impulsivity.
Yes.
I appreciate that. And you did not give Leslie on able accounts. Does the state of Kansas offer that, or do you go to a private attorney? Where would you look up opening an able account?
You'll get a resource that has that information. It's actually in the resource. It'll be a handout that'll be sent to you later after this program.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's already coming to you. And yes, Kansas has able accounts and has an able account website, and Missouri has able accounts and has an able account website. You can go directly there. And I will tell you, there are fees associated with able accounts like everything else. And I want to say if you established you can establish an ABLE account with as little as $25. But there are the fees that are taken in establishing that account. And then if you don't fund it anymore for that year, let's say you only put in $25, you'll see most of that $25 gone in that first year. So don't just put $25 in it thinking you're going to fund it down the road. Wait until you're going to fund it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because pretty much that $25 is going to be the cost of setting it up for the first year.
Evie,
Yes.
this is not a bank account?
No, it doesn't. No, it's not a bank account. It's like a 529 plan or an IRA or a 401k. It's like an investment account.
So
It
could
has
you get it from your investment advisor, or is it from the state? I'm not clear.
It's from this, you need to go, well, you can ask your investment advisor if they have ABLE accounts. They cannot, don't worry, your investment advisor, they're licensed, and they're not going to set up an inappropriate account for you.
But I've never heard it before.
Yeah. ABLE accounts are very, very, very powerful and important accounts now, but it's much like a 529 or a 401k. I mean, they are their own animals. Now you may be wondering, well, how does somebody get money out of it? So they usually have debit cards that are associated with it. The debit card doesn't allow you access to the full balance. They fund that card, much like we use. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of TrueLink cards. That's something that we use, where we will put money on that card for our beneficiaries' use. And that's what the ABLE account does. It will add, if you say I need $100 on my debit card, they'll put the $100 on your debit card.
Thank you.
Okay, since I have a little bit of extra time, let's talk a little bit more about if you're okay with me talking about those 5 basic estate planning documents. And let's talk about the process of how all these documents are used, because we create these documents and we tell you what you need to do when we go to these attorneys, but then what really happens with these documents? And the most often used documents when crisis mode happens. Now remember, really none of these are going to hit until you either become disabled, incapacitated, or you die. I mean, otherwise they're just kind of sitting there in the background resting. So what really happens? If you have a healthcare power of attorney in place, now remember, this is where you're appointing an agent. You are unable to speak. You're in a car wreck, you're unconscious, and someone needs to make a decision on whether or not to operate to reset your leg. The last thing that we need to happen is, where's the document? Did mom ever do that document? Does anybody know where this document is? And that's why I say, if you've appointed someone as your agent, they should have a copy of that document. And then how does your family know that that person is the agent, and to make sure that that person's notified? So that's where we have to, at some point, have those conversations with our family on the decisions that we have made. And you have to have the strength to do it. And by strength, I mean, everyone's going to have a suggestion for you on how you could have done it better, or why you shouldn't have done what you did. Well, you just have to put that in the background and stay strong and say, this is my conversation, not yours. And tell people, you don't have to say, I have $250,000 over here at this bank, and I've got $30,000 in this savings account. You don't have to say that stuff. What you have to say is, Evie is going to be my healthcare power of attorney. We've talked about what my wishes are. Evie is willing to honor those wishes. If anything happens to me, please make sure that Evie is notified. Evie's contact information is contained on this paper that's in this bright pink notebook that I've put on this shelf. And then you can say, if something happens to me, Evie is going to be taking care of my bills. Evie's contact information is on this shelf. Please just make sure that Evie is contacted. She knows what to do, because you've had that conversation with Evie also on what your healthcare wishes are, that if your cancer reoccurs, that you do not want any more invasive treatments. You're done. You're done with your treatments. And Evie is willing to honor that. Or on the financial side of things, that Evie knows that your 2022 tax return was done, your 2023 tax return information is in the bottom left-hand drawer, and she will be able to find it. So you've had those conversations, and my dear family members, I ask that you help Evie, but please do not argue with Evie. In the case of blended families,
Oh, God.
blended families,
Oh. Evie.
Evie, we got to unmute you. Hey, Kelly.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm trying to
Okay.
get her. There she
am
is.
I
Okay.
unmuted?
There we go.
There you
we
are.
go.
What was the last blathering you heard? Anything important? Okay, we were talking about having conversations around blended families. You got to have the conversation, and actually say the words. I tell people to say the words, and they go, "Oh, I can't say that." Yes, you can. Say the words on how you expect your family to behave if you pass away. It's just so important to say, I expect you to be nice to Evie. I know she's your stepmother, but I expect you to be kind to Evie. And, you think these things aren't necessary. They are necessary. It's just necessary to have those conversations about why you've done some of the things you've done. If you've chosen, by the way, if you have 4 children, please do not put all 4 of them in your documents as co-agents or co-executor or co-trustee. Can you imagine getting all 4 to agree on something, or to track them all down because you got to have all 4 signatures? Oh, what a nightmare. Okay. So conversations, where your documents are, on those healthcare powers of attorney that are free. Anyone over 18 needs those. Thanksgiving is coming up. If you have children, grandchildren, nieces and nephews, grandnieces and nephews, friends who happen to be off the street somewhere and they're over 18 and they have nothing, why, it's Thanksgiving dinner. It's a good time to whip out that form before you eat and say, let's fill them out, guys. Let's do it right now. So, I mean, they are free, and you can, download it, copy it front, back. Now, granted, one of them has to be notarized, but you can do everything else, everything but that, and signing that back page or front page, whichever way you happen to have the form facing. But the rest of it, you can make them fill out all the parts of it. So I did that to my own family many years ago.
For you.
Yeah, no beers and no wine and no nothing until you fill this form out. And by the way, happy Thanksgiving. Yeah. Okay. So we know where to put our documents. And how they work together. So we talked about the healthcare, the trust. As long as an asset is titled in the trust, you don't have to worry about somebody walking into the bank and getting their hands on your money. But if you have shared all of your online access codes and somebody knows how to sign into your bank account because you've asked a family member or whatever, you know, they can get in there and do stuff. So, you know, don't let your grandson just help you with your online technology and where all your passcodes and stuff are, unless you want to suffer the consequences. So online access is complicated. The security of bank accounts. You know, you just want to make sure whoever you give that information to, you know why you've done that. Because even if they're not your agent and they know how to get into your bank account, I mean, everything can be proven. If financial transactions, the beauty of financial transactions is they're all recorded transactions. So, you know, it's, you know where the money went, you know who initiated the transaction, but unfortunately it's your sign on and your password and it's your responsibility. So the bank's not going to give you your money back. Even if we know where the money went, the bank's not going to give you your money back. So make sure all that stuff is protected. But if somebody tries to go into the bank to access your account, they have to actually have that legal document. So that's the beauty of having those documents, especially a trust. They have to show the trust, and they have to show that it's Evie Curtis who's named as a trustee, and Evie Curtis has to prove that she's Evie Curtis sitting in front of that banker. And then that document goes to the legal department to review before anybody can get any money. So, you know, there is some safety with these documents. Financial powers of attorney are, you know, banks don't like financial powers of attorney. Obviously, brokerage firms don't like, and I see financial powers of attorney being the one document that is going to have the most scrutiny as time goes on. I know there are laws that are pending right now to make whoever is appointed as agent under that more like a fiduciary, where there is protection for your money if misuse happens. But I also see financial institutions starting to require more and more of their own forms to be filled out, which means you got to ask the questions. You have to ask whether you bank with UMB, Commerce, Bank of America, Country Club, whoever you bank with, you know, ask your banker, will you recognize my power of attorney, or do I need your form? And you might be surprised how many of them say you need our form. I went so far as to ask my bank if they would put my documents on file so they could reference them if something happened to me. And they said, absolutely not. So there you go. But you have to ask those questions. So, you know, okay, they absolutely not, I understand. So I say, what do I do? And they said, well, here's our solution to that. Okay, then I filled out their forms. Fine. Same thing goes for you. You fill out those forms. All right. Mistakes that people make. The number one mistake people make in their estate planning is doing nothing. I bet you're surprised at that. Number one mistake is doing absolutely nothing. The second mistake people make is planning for planning for death and not incapacity. So think more about incapacity and less about death. The death part is easy, as I said. And then another mistake people make is, oh shoot, just left my brain. Mistakes. Oh, shoot. I got a third one for you, but it's not coming to me right now. It'll come to me in a minute. So get something done. If it's been more than 3 years, it's time to review your documents. You may not have to change them, but pull them out. If your will is from 1963, it's too old. So, let's get some things updated. A lot of things have changed since 1963. There's some ex-spouses named. Oh, I have given insurance benefits to a lot of ex-spouses. They're very happy to receive it. So yeah, watch out for that. That's another biggie. Beneficiary designations. Beneficiary designations, joint accounts are going to go according to how they're titled, not according to your estate planning documents. So if you have a joint account with your daughter, the money's going to go all to your daughter, not to your daughter and son, for instance. If you have a beneficiary designation, oh, I just love this one. It's someone who had a beneficiary designation and it was going to the oldest son because he's the oldest son. And mom said, don't worry, he'll split it with his brothers and sisters. Well, I just bet he will. Yeah. Yep. Don't know what happened with that one, but anyway, it's going to go to him. Now, if he is a kind of nice guy and he does say he's going to split it and he does, it's a gift tax consequence for him. So could be a gift tax consequence. By the way, back in the day, we did estate planning because, we didn't want to pay estate taxes. And right now it's not an issue. Because it's going to be 13 million something, 13 million and change next year that we can each have when we die before we have to pay estate taxes. So right now it's probably not an issue for most of us, but I hope incapacity scares you. I hope if nothing else, I've scared you a little bit. I think I have nothing else.
Well, Evie, that was so phenomenal. So much great information, wealth of resources, great advice and guidance for all of us to be able to take forward to help not only ourselves, but our loved ones, those that will be left behind as we transition at our end of our time, and those who are incapacitated. So much wonderful, wonderful information. I really appreciate you this evening.
Oh, my pleasure.
Big round of applause. Go ahead and give it up for Evie Curtis. Woo-hoo. Linda, we can't hear you.
Oh, she says that her face says it all.
Okay, for sure, for sure. Wonderful. Well, thank you again. Kelly, anything else that we need to do to wrap up our evening?
The only thing I was going to say is I have Evie's notes on the ABLE accounts. And so I can email that out to everyone who was here today on the call. And so you can have the real specific details that she spoke about in case you missed anything with your note taking.
Love it. Thank you so much. Thank
And
you.
you're going to send out her contact information as well to all of us?
I can.
Please do.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Evie.
Bye. Take care.